Okay, now we have with us retired General SVP Singh, former ADG, artillery and defense analyst. General Singh, thank you very much for being with us. Good morning to you. How have you read the developments of last night? Because at around 10:30, 11, when the reports of the explosions and the ceasefire violations were again trickling in, it just seemed quite shocking that Pakistan would resort to something like that. But since then, I think the last couple of hours at least have gone by peacefully. What would your take be on the situation?
Good morning, Surabhi, and to the viewers of the CNBC TV18. It's always an honor to join you. Well, let me first say that this ceasefire was never about peace, but that is not in the encyclopedia or the dictionary of the Pakistanis. It was a tactical ploy to buy time because they were getting hammered, and their war waging effort with the reduction and the destruction caused on the airfields, military bases, was not allowing them to even put their heads up. And that's how they reached. And the second factor in this is that Pakistan did come to realize, and they still realize it, that India's proactive doctrine is there to stay. What they have not realized in this is that an act of terrorism, this new doctrine of India, will be an act of war, which has very serious implications in the international arena, including, if I have to say, Article 51 of the UN Charter. Now, they have not understood this message from India. And what they did, they can do best to betray faith, good faith. So they have done that again. Next point is that the Prime Minister's speech carries the message to the countrymen that it is their victory. So this deceit is still very much remains part of their DNA. I would also hasten to add that ceasefire saves people from death and destruction. So it is always good, but it has to be honorable one.
Yes.
Now, you have asked me what's the violations which have taken place. We have all seen last night, J&K area, right up to Gujarat, Kutch. They are doing best what they can do, cheap warfare, drones. The earlier doctrine of asymmetric warfare, non-conventional, to make use of the terrorists continues to be alive. There was an incident reported. That some sort of infiltration has taken place. Perhaps it is getting negated in Nagrota. I take that with a pinch of salt. I'm sure in the interim period when this blackout was there and the drones were there, Pakistan has made full use of infiltrating some terrorists. I mean, that is the mind of that Mullah General Munir. And we have to understand, in warfare, whatever the principles of war are, but the one most important thing, and I give a heavy weightage to it, is to understand the enemy commanders' personality traits.
Absolutely.
And so we have seen Munir, what he's doing. We should not get betrayed next time round. I'm glad to the extent that the ceasefire is not one of lost victories for India today. Because what they did last night, it puts India back on the map, and the two different interpretations which Parikshit has covered, the United States has arrived on the scene to say it was ceasefire, but till 3 days back or 2 days, till yesterday morning, it was that they are not indulging between the two countries.
Absolutely, so General Singh. No, absolutely. And you raise a lot of important points. Let me go to them one by one. We'll have Parikshit joining in as well. You've raised several very important points, sir. Number one, you're saying that we have to see if this is just a ploy by Pakistan to buy time. And that's something extremely significant to take note of. And then, obviously, we'll discuss the US role as well. But on that first point, obviously, the terms and conditions of the ceasefire need to be discussed and deliberated. There's a meeting between the Director Generals of Military Operations on Monday, as Parikshit has told us. Now, since obviously this is perhaps a fear that India legitimately and rightfully has about Pakistani designs and whether this is just a ploy to buy time, what would you say? What are the specific areas that India should have a laser-sharp focus on as these meetings happen and the terms and conditions of the ceasefire are discussed, sir?
Okay, it's a very good point. they are weighing in my mind. The first and foremost would be that their terrorist hubs and their terrorists who are there around, they should be in that agreement verifiable acts on both sides. That means India should have the right to verify in Pakistan what is their terrorist movement taking place. I'm trying to say this to equate with what US has done with Iran on the nuclear assets. Verifiable. So that is very important. Whatever the team may be, even if it is the United Nations, India should be part of that. I mean, that's the only way of getting some sort of guarantee from Pakistan. Now, next is that we have to continue to remain in high alert. That means earlier they were bleeding us through terrorism and proxy war. Now our deployment will remain heavy. So it again costs us in the exchequer. So, but that be it, we have to take on, we have to remain proactive. We must, and when I say proactive, if a hint of a thing happens, we should deliver with prohibitive reaction. And that be it, I'm sure Pakistan will, I'm sure, I repeat, will do things which are related to bleed India.
I'd just like to ask you, do you feel that it's a lesson for India to also trust the United States so much? Over the last few months, we are going out of our way to negotiate a trade deal with the US as early as possible. We're giving them all kinds of concessions. But here you have a US president who has equated India, which is a democracy, which is one of the growing powers in the world economically, which is probably going to be the manufacturing hub for the world, or at least one of them, with Pakistan, which is, which has become a hub for terror havens. India and Indian sources, immediately after Donald Trump's statement, they called us and they said, listen, this was agreed upon bilaterally. We do not agree with the terming of the words, the statement by the United States. This is not a ceasefire. We're calling it a stoppage of hostilities for the moment. Details will be worked out. Nothing has changed on the ground. We remain resolute and firm in our fight against terror. So India wanted to somehow move away or differentiate itself from the US statement. You feel somewhere that the US has fallen into Pakistan's trap? How would you read things that have happened and also the discomfort in the Indian government?
Number of issues, Parikshit. Thank you. Firstly, I would like to address is trust and faith is subject to being verified, whether it is Pakistan or whether it is United States. Intentions are one thing, actions are the other. So that be it, and that should be our mantra. India has come out with an excellent thing that military position doesn't change, and I totally agree with. This is good statecraft from the Indian side. Now, how much we trust the actions of United States, they are trying to equate India and Pakistan in this, partially right, I would say. They're trying to get back into that old catch-22 situation, which they always had equated. But however, I will give one benefit to the United States, and that is being our special strategic partner. India honors that. India gains from that. I think in this, whatever little parlays would have taken place, United States would have prevailed on India to cease hostilities on the count that they don't want war hostilities to be extending into this regional South Asia, because their strategic partner Israel, they are now embroiled in that. Ukraine, though Trump wants to withdraw and take NATO to task, but still it is US's business to support Ukraine. Now, so Europe, Middle East, and now it would have been Asia, where he's already now involved, having climbed down from the tariff taxation 145% to 80%. So he doesn't want China also as an opponent who's active to harm USA in one way or the other. because it's a two-way street. And what doesn't go away from the United States commitment is Taiwan in the South China Sea. So I think
Absolutely.
USA looked at it wisely, I would say, that South Asia could be spared this bloodshed would be a good thing. And indeed,
because they don't want another front to open up in Taiwan, and that's their immediate worry. So I'm just going to come to you. I'd just like to welcome Ambassador Anil Trigunayat, who has extensive experience, like you, and extensive experience in the Middle East. Ambassador Trigunayat, we announced a stoppage of firing and military action around 4:30 p.m. on 10th of May, that is yesterday. Around 7 o'clock, Pakistan started firing all across the LOC and the international border. How do you read this Pakistani action? Was this only to send out a message to India? Because the forces tell us, and the sources in the armed forces say, that this always happens. They always stab us in the back whenever there is any kind of understanding.
Thank you, Parikshit, and very good morning to you and your audience. The thing is that whenever some kind of a ceasefire or understanding is achieved at the highest level, it does take some time to percolate. Pakistan is a special case where we see that there are competing loyalties within the army. General Munir himself is facing a lot of problems, so there are other generals who may not be on the same page. The political leadership is in a very fragile situation, always has been, and they work at the behest of the army in their country. So therefore, one can say that safely that this could also be not necessarily a central command instructions, but it could be some local commanders who may have continued to show off that we are there. But India responded appropriately in a very measured way, definitely and decisively. And Pakistan understands that. Now, how did they arrive on this? Basically, there are several reasons for it. They have been under tremendous pressure on them internationally. This IMF deal has been cut on the condition that they will cease fire. But from India's perspective, we have given them such a fitting response. They have realized all their weaknesses. India's forces have prevailed. The military dominance has prevailed. Diplomatic dominance has prevailed. And so therefore, I feel that Pakistan knew that they were on a very highly losing spree. At the same time, we have to also see the role of the United States. In the beginning, United States President Trump, if you remember, the first day he said, oh, these guys have been fighting for centuries and decades and whatnot. And hopefully they will stop it. And the JD1 says, it's not our business. The reason is they all understand that India follows a zero terror policy. India will hit wherever the terror hideouts are there. And so I believe, in my view, it'll all come out 25, 30 years later, what happened actually. But the Americans and the rest of the world understood very clearly that India will take revenge for what heinous crimes were committed by Pak-based terrorists in Pahalgam. And that is precisely done. And we also say that we are not don't have any intentions to escalate further or have a war with Pakistan. That's why initially we did not hit any of the Pakistani civilian or military infrastructure. But then the Pakistan wanted to continue on this path, and they very soon realized in a few days' time that it's a no-go for them. They cannot just survive. And therefore, that's where they come on the table.
Absolutely. Ambassador Trigunayat, good morning, sir. This is Surabhi from the Mumbai studios.
Morning,
just a further question on this point, the American role. And as you rightly said, at the beginning of the hostilities, both the US president as well as different parts of the American administration, the message was clear that we cannot interfere. This is their mutual matter. I think it was the US Secretary of State, if I remember correctly. There was a statement that came in that we can't be asking Pakistan to lay down arms. It's a matter between India and Pakistan to resolve. So something very different clearly was happening behind the scenes. And I think there are questions now arising on what exactly the American role was. And, perhaps the question or the fear would be that did the ceasefire, was it handed over to the Pakistanis at a very opportune time for them? That's what General Singh was saying, that they were being hammered by our forces and they really needed the ceasefire to save face and to buy time. So, I mean, how do you sort of look at perhaps the behind-the-scenes story on the American role and how this was all stitched? Because it was, out of the blue fairly for most of us here in India, right?
Well, there are 2 or 3 things that we need to keep in mind as far as, and I fully agree with General Saab, that the US role under President Trump has significantly changed. They want to exercise power and influence without going to war. He hates wars personally. That is no doubt about it. And that's been shown ever since he has come into power. He's tried to stop all of the wars, even including the one in the Middle East. But at the same time, they also understand, and then they are our global comprehensive strategic partners. They also understand India's constraints, and they were one of the first to have condemned it also. Of course, all countries in the world, our closest friends, everybody has been saying that there should be a de-escalation. And we ourselves have been telling everyone, wherever there is a war, we always say that there should be a dialogue, diplomacy, respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity. But here with Pakistan, it's an entirely different ball game altogether. It is not something that you are fighting on something very fundamental. You are basically fighting through the fundamentalists and terrorists against India for the last 3 decades. So India has changed its policy is completely changed now. As far as wherever the terror hideouts, we know that we have to deal with it ourselves. And it was told to Americans very clearly by India also. We did not want to escalate it into a war. We have been maintaining it from day one. But whenever there is an attack from the other side, it will be responded to fiercely. And that's precisely what India has done. And whatever reports have come out, we can say that we have been very successful in decimating a lot of their infrastructure, both terrorists as well as the military. So Pakistan actually is on the receiving end in this. So naturally, they want a face saving and get out. And that's where the role of, I would say that we should not underestimate the role of our other West Asian partners. Iran from the very beginning have been involved in it. Their foreign minister came here. Saudis have been involved in it. Qataris and UAE and all the countries, while siding with India, have been telling consistently that we need to, both sides need to tone it down. And precisely it has happened. Now, this kind of a trust deficit that is there and the competing loyalties that prevail within Pakistan will continue to have these kind of problems. But my problem is different. Right. My problem is what happens to terrorism, which was the main cause, the root cause of this problem.
Right. Let me get one final question from General Singh. General Singh, CNN International has been reporting that Vance Rubio and Susie Wiles of the White House received alarming intelligence on Friday morning that led them to get directly involved. And they determined that J.D. Vance would call Prime Minister Modi, and off-ramp was offered to Pakistan. And that's when things started rolling from there. By Friday, sir, where do you think we had reached in this conflict? And what would have been so alarming in the next few days? Were we looking at perhaps an all-out war? Because we were looking at Pakistani fighters entering our airbase. We had destroyed radars and severely damaged at least 9 or 10 air bases of Pakistan. Where do you think we were at the war? And if this was alarming, what could have happened?
Parikshit, Friday daytime, as a military commander, my mind was working. Why are we not taking forward our strategic initiative and our military purpose, the objective? But night Fridays, we went into action. And that is where it mattered. That is why by 15:30 hours, the DGMO of Pakistan spoke. And I'm sure it would have been a pegging tone to let us arrive at some ceasefire agreement. And that is where it has mattered. That yesterday morning, it was heavy attrition. Daytime, Indian Air Force has caused such severe destruction. It is commendable. And listen, I would like to say, whatever United States can claim, history has different stories to tell later. So I would not like to venture into it. But there are certain lessons in this about 96 hours of actual hot war which took place. Firstly, our tri-service has come of age. We have been in a stage of Hitlerization, And I think that this was a work in being. Some testing has been done, particularly at planning stage and partially at the execution stage. Secondly, a lesson comes out which has now been practiced in the wars recently. It is non-contact warfare, where missile, drones, and the long-range artillery rockets, they are going to be to the fore of warfare, combined with the non-kinetic cyber and digital efforts. So this is again a lesson. In this lesson, India has to now take forward its drone warfare, our production of drones, high intensity drones, and our drone warfare and anti-drone warfare tactics strategy. Next is that, see this, we have been talking about two and a half front war. Though China during 1971, 1999, or even 65 did not actively participate or support Pakistan, they have done that same in the short while. But India's agility, mobility of thought, both military, statecraft, at the government level, bureaucracy, my friend Ambassador, his service, I mean, it has been unison that we have to take guard on the China front, and now we got another front, Bangladesh, and then we have to take care of our internal security. And that is where, in this time, this Pahalgam has again brought out these lessons very loud and clear. Do not take it easy. We will never let 1962 be repeated. This is the motto of our armed forces. We are prepared. And I think the meetings which the Prime Minister held with the service chiefs, and being shown on the television, was not a optics show. It was a message to the nation and a larger message to the international media. Look, my armed forces, my military is all set. We are a finely oiled machinery, and we will deliver in the best interest of our national security. Now, that has been a very good message in this 96 hours, and to the build-up from 22nd April, the 26th April, the service chiefs meeting which the president held, Prime Minister held. So I think there have been some payoffs, definitely. But Pakistan, once again, I would like to say, has missed the bus. They have missed the bus. They had the previous day a bailout from the IMF, though I would say it has got geopolitical news around its neck, because there are a lot of riders on that. The Saudi Arabia deposits, the Chinese loan, which has ceased for some time, because Chinese are very wise people. But and second was the ceasefire. But yet that ugly head, that terrorist-oriented head has risen again. So my message is, let us be on ball and let us not relax. Let us not believe. Let us be proactive. Why? Because look at the LOC. They're still daring to continue to fire artillery. Look at the damage which has been done. You know, J&K, I've had few tenures there, Uri, Punch sector in particular. And I feel for that population, because particularly in Punch, they've been so loyal right from 1947-48. They've all evacuated to Jammu. One community has gone into the remote areas. So, I mean, we should hammer them there, because line of control is no more there. Shimla agreement, they have never honored it. They did not. And we should not fall in that trap. Last point, the Galwan are withdrawal from east of Kailash. We must not fall in that trap. IGP in 1965, which would have been our springboard to control Pakistan. Today, they're using it for the terrorism. And now this one, I think, thank God for that they betrayed this ceasefire.
Strong words there, General Singh, and I'm sure you, a lot of the other very, very experienced people in the military establishment, a lot of these discussions will be ongoing right now. And like I said, we're in some very, very important times as the terms and conditions of the ceasefire are discussed over the next couple of days. We do have to take a very quick break. Lots more to discuss, including the Chinese angle to all this. Plus, of course, a lot of reactions also pouring in overnight on the ceasefire. We'll be back with more in just a moment.